We've spoken before about Apple and its woes in the EU, particularly around the App Store, and now I guess this is more, I guess what Apple getting ahead of the curve here before they, I guess, pull some more regulation shenanigans on them. This idea that the European regulators will soon approve Apple's plan to open up tap to pay, the functionality of the NFC chip, for lack of a better term, to banks and payment providers. This is just I guess a trend, and it'll be interesting to see how other countries, obviously Europe as a bloc is doing this, but how other countries are dealing with this sort of, I don't know if you want to call it a backlash against big tech. Okay, we're picking on Apple here for opening up, their payment system to third parties, but it's a broader trend that's happening, across big tech that, we have to rein them in, kind of thing before they I guess lock everything up to suit their own purposes. I guess that's kind of the approach they're taking.
Yeah, look, I think regulators are realizing the risk. Maybe it might be dawning on our regulators in Australia, but the EU realizes that these are very powerful, giant companies cashed up in the States, and I think just Europe by its nature, culturally, and it's the age of the nations within Europe, they understand that they can lose, I guess, sovereign access to their own data. They can lose sovereign access to markets. Effectively, a tech company comes in, all the work goes overseas, and there's no ownership or ability for people within that European bloc to have control, I guess, over choice within that tech sector. So, the EU is probably one of the few, I guess, blocks that has the trading power to be able to do that, and they're making sure that Apple at least are getting on the front foot and doing things before they have to step in.
It's probably worth mentioning too about in the US, the DOJ, they're launching an antitrust lawsuit against Apple for monopolizing, or supposedly setting up a monopoly with the iPhone in the States is like a corollary as well that is interesting, and to see where they go. I guess the danger, is you'd want these regulators to be up on the tech. So, I think this all came down to, like things like mandating USB-C, for instance, but taking forever to get there. And if you take too long, given how fast tech moves, you could end up putting in a regulation that ends up becoming outdated pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I think the regulators in the States are becoming a lot more sensitive and a lot more, I think, knowledgeable. I mean, the market is mature now. Even and we say this all the time about how quickly the market sort of evolves. Even 5 years ago, would you be able to sort of pass laws to open up or prevent anti-competitive behaviours? Maybe not. And I think we've seen over the last 10 years, Apple, Google, Meta, really Amazon taking advantage of the continuing evolution. I think the evolution of these markets has slowed now, and maybe the regulators are catching up. So maybe now we'll start to see either a need for new market trends for the tech giants, or maybe they'll find themselves having to respond.